If you're working twice as hard as your colleagues but getting half the recognition, your trauma responses might be costing you more than you realize. Let's talk about what's really happening.
Did you know that trauma impacts how we navigate our careers, but most career advice ignores this reality? Imagine feeling confident and safe at work while honoring your healing journey. Welcome to your Trauma Wise Career Guide, the podcast that reimagines career development for trauma survivors. I'm your host, Cindy Bennett, a trauma survivor turned trauma-informed career coach and founder of the Resilient Career Academy. If you're navigating your career while honoring your healing journey, you are in the right place.
Hey everyone, welcome back to your Trauma Wise Career Guide. I'm so glad you're here today because today we're diving into something I see happening all the time with trauma survivors I work with. And it's something that might be happening in your career right now without you even realizing it. You know that feeling when you're putting in all this effort at work, showing up early, staying late, doing excellent work, and somehow you're still invisible? Or maybe you're exhausted all the time, like you're running a marathon while everyone else is taking a casual stroll. Here's what I want you to know. This isn't because you're not good enough. It's not because you lack ambition or skill. What's actually happening is that unprocessed trauma is creating invisible barriers between you and the career recognition you deserve. And today we're going to talk about exactly what those barriers look like, why they're so hard to see, and what it means to start addressing them in a way that actually honors your healing journey. Let me start by painting a picture that might feel familiar. You walk into your workplace every single day carrying an invisible backpack. In that backpack, you've got your hypervigilance, constantly scanning for threats that might not even be there. You've got your people-pleasing tendencies, saying yes when you mean no because conflict feels dangerous. You've got your perfectionism, working 3 times harder than necessary to prove you're not broken. And here's the thing. Nobody else can see this backpack. Your colleagues don't know you're carrying it. Your boss doesn't factor it into their expectations, but you feel the weight of it every single day. This is what I call the invisible load of unprocessed trauma in the workplace. Based on my work with hundreds of trauma survivors, I see this invisible load manifesting in 3 primary ways. First, hypervigilance masquerading as conscientiousness. You might be incredible at noticing details others miss. You're always prepared for worst-case scenarios. You're constantly thinking 3 steps ahead. Now, these are actually valuable skills, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But when hypervigilance goes unprocessed, it becomes exhausting. You're using enormous amounts of energy scanning for danger in situations that are actually safe. This means that by the time you get to the actual strategic thinking, the visibility work, the networking, the things that lead to recognition and advancement, you're already depleted. Second, people-pleasing disguised as being a team player. You're the person who always says yes. You take on extra projects, you smooth over conflicts, you make sure everyone else is comfortable. Again, these collaborative skills are valuable. But when they come from an unprocessed trauma response, when they're rooted in fear of abandonment or a need to stay safe by keeping everyone happy, they cost you. You end up overworking and undercharging and undervaluing yourself. You become known as helpful, but not as a leader. You're reliable, but not visible. You're everyone's favorite colleague, but you're not getting promoted. And thirdly, perfectionism that looks like high performance. You might have incredibly high standards for your work. You catch every typo. You anticipate every question. You prepare for every possible scenario. This attention to detail is a strength. But when it's driven by an unhealed belief that you have to be perfect to be safe, to be worthy, to avoid being found out, it becomes a prison. You're spending hours on tasks that should take minutes. You're afraid to delegate because nobody else will do it right. You're not speaking up in meetings because you don't have the perfect answer yet. And all this is keeping you small, exhausted, and invisible. Here's why this is so tricky. These patterns worked for you at some point. Your hypervigilance kept you safe in an environment where you actually needed to watch for danger. Your people-pleasing helped you navigate relationships with people who genuinely might have harmed you. Your perfectionism protected you from criticism in situations where criticism was genuinely threatening. These weren't bad strategies. They were brilliant survival strategies. The problem is that your nervous system doesn't automatically know when you're safe now. It keeps running the same protective programs, even in environments where you don't need that level of protection anymore. So you end up in this strange situation where the very things that helped you survive are now the things limiting your ability to thrive. This creates what I call the recognition gap. You're doing exceptional work. You're bringing unique insights to the table, insights that only come from having navigated difficult experiences. You're emotionally intelligent, resilient, detail-oriented, and deeply committed to doing things right. But because so much of your energy is going into managing your trauma responses, you're not visible in the ways that lead to career advancement. You're not advocating for yourself because that feels unsafe. You're not highlighting your achievements because that feels like bragging and might make you a target. You're not building strategic relationships because trust is complicated and networking feels performative and exhausting. Meanwhile, your colleagues who aren't carrying this invisible load are getting the recognition, the promotions, and the opportunities. Not because they're more talented than you, not because they're working harder than you, but because they have more energy available for visibility work because they're not simultaneously managing trauma responses. This is why traditional career advice often falls flat for trauma survivors. Someone tells you, just put yourself out there, or speak up more in meetings, or don't be afraid to promote yourself. And while you're sitting there thinking, I'm not choosing to be invisible, my nervous system is telling me that visibility is dangerous. Or they tell you to set better boundaries, or learn to say no, or don't be a people pleaser. And you're thinking, I know I should set boundaries, but when I try, my body goes into panic mode because saying no once meant serious consequences. The advice isn't wrong exactly. It's just incomplete. It doesn't account for the fact that your trauma responses are intelligent adaptations, and you can't just willpower your way past them. So, what's the alternative? This is where integration-focused career development comes in, and this is very different from either traditional career coaching or traditional trauma therapy. Integration-focused career development recognizes that you don't need to get over your trauma before you can advance in your career. Instead, it helps you understand how to work with your trauma responses while you're building your professional life. It's about 3 key things. First, recognizing your trauma-developed skills. Those patterns we talked about, hypervigilance, people-pleasing, and perfectionism, they've developed genuine skills in you. Your hypervigilance means you have exceptional awareness of dynamics and patterns. You notice things others miss. You can read a room, anticipate problems, and think strategically about risk. Your people-pleasing has developed extraordinary emotional intelligence. You understand how people feel, what they need, and how to create connection and collaboration. Your perfectionism has created genuine excellence in your work. You have high standards, attention to detail, and commitment to quality. The work isn't about eliminating these qualities. It's about learning to use them strategically rather than compulsively. It's about channeling these strengths in ways that serve you instead of depleting you. Second, developing personalized regulation strategies. This is about building your capacity to stay present and regulated in professional settings, even when your nervous system is sending danger signals. It means learning what your specific triggers are in the workplace context, understanding what helps you come back to center when you're activated, knowing when to push through discomfort and when to honor your need for safety. This isn't about having perfect control over your responses. It's about building enough regulation capacity that you can take strategic career actions even when you're not feeling 100% safe. And third, creating authentic advancement strategies. This is where we bring it all together, using your trauma-informed insights and your growing regulation capacity to build a career that actually fits who you are. Not a career that requires you to pretend you're someone else. Not a career that ignores your healing needs, but a career that honors both your ambitions and your journey. This means learning how to advocate for yourself in ways that feel authentic, not performative. Building professional relationships that energize rather than drain you. Setting boundaries that protect your energy without isolating you. Taking visibility risks that feel calculated rather than reckless. When you start doing this integration work, when you start working with your trauma responses instead of against them, something shifts. You stop feeling like you're working twice as hard for half the recognition. You start seeing your career challenges more clearly. You begin making strategic decisions from a place of wisdom rather than reactivity. You start to understand that your healing journey hasn't been a detour from your career. It's been preparation for it. The insights you've gained, the resilience you've built, the empathy you've developed, these are your professional superpowers. And you start building a career that doesn't just tolerate who you are, but actually values and leverages your unique perspective and strengths. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually do this? Where do I even start? And that's a really valid question because this kind of integration work is nuanced. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It requires understanding your specific trauma responses, your particular career situation, and your unique goals and values. This is exactly why I created the Resilient Career Academy coaching membership program. Because trauma survivors need more than generic career advice or traditional therapy. You need a space that brings both together in a way that's actually designed for how you experience work and healing. And actually, in 2 weeks, I'm opening enrollment for the membership. But before I do, I want to give you something that will help you start understanding exactly where you are in this process and what you need next. This week, I'm hosting a free 3-part training series called Beyond Survival Mode, Build Sustainable Career Success. Part 1 is career growth possible after trauma, what you need to know. We'll explore whether career advancement and trauma recovery can actually happen at the same time and what needs to be in place for that to work. Part 2 is career growth and healing. Can they coexist? We'll dive into how to balance your professional ambitions with your healing journey and what integration-focused career development actually looks like in practice. And Part 3 is called Find Your Voice, Self-Advocacy for Trauma-Informed Professionals. We'll look at how to speak up for yourself, advocate for your needs, and increase your visibility in ways that honor your nervous system and feel authentic to who you are. This training is completely free, and you can implement what you learn whether or not you ever join the membership. My goal is to give you clarity and actionable insights either way. The training starts this week, so head to the show notes right now and click the link to sign up. This is going to be incredibly valuable whether you're just starting to think about this work or you're already deep in your healing journey. Here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. If you're working really hard, but not getting the recognition you deserve, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's not because you're not talented enough, or ambitious enough, or strategic enough. It's because you're carrying an invisible load that others aren't carrying. And that load, those trauma responses, they're taking up energy that could be going toward your visibility, your advancement, your strategic career moves. But here's the good news. Once you start understanding how this works, once you start learning to work with your trauma responses instead of against them, everything changes. Your career stops feeling like an uphill battle and starts feeling like a path you're choosing with wisdom and intention. You deserve a career that recognizes your full value. You deserve recognition for all the brilliant work you're doing. And you deserve support that actually understands what you're navigating. I'll see you next week with that training. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think. Thanks for listening to Your Trauma Wise Career Guide. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with another trauma survivor who might need to hear this message. And don't forget to sign up for this week's free 3-part training, Beyond Survival Mode, by clicking the link in the show notes. See you next time. You're not walking this path alone. Every step you take toward a trauma-wise career is an act of courage, and I'm here cheering you on. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with another survivor who needs to hear this message. Together, we're rewriting the rules of career success. Keep rising, keep healing, keep building.